What's up, everybody? Forrest from Life Fitness here. Excited for another opportunity to connect with you with a few of my colleagues. Today, we've got two special guests, one from the YMCA and then one of my good friends and coworkers here at Life Fitness, Jeff Gormely. So Jeff and I have worked together for a couple of years as he covers the North Florida market for us on the club side for Life Fitness. So Jeff, thanks for joining. Why don't you tell everybody here watching the episode who you have with us and how you know him.
Absolutely. Thanks, Forrest. Everyone, I'm Jeff Gormley. I've been with Life Fitness for about 5 years now. Been growing the relationships, I should say, with the YMCAs. And Tim was one of the first people that I really connected with inside the YMCA when I started with Life Fitness, and our relationship has grown only from there. So, without waiting any longer, I have Tim Burrows from the First Coast YMCA. They're out of the Jacksonville area. So hello, Tim.
What's going on, guys? Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Awesome. So the first real question that we want to ask you is, how long have you been with the Y? And, explain a little bit of your background with the Y and how you came up through it.
Yeah, sure. So I'm coming up on 14 years this June, and it was my first job out of college. So I graduated with my master's of ex-phys from the University of Kentucky, and I was searching for jobs up in the Lexington market, and I had interned at the YMCA during grad school. Fell back in love with it because I was a Y kid growing up. Always went there with my parents, got involved with sports, swim, all that good stuff that people know about the Y. So I couldn't find any jobs there, and I was searching the web, and I saw personal trainer, Jacksonville, Florida. I said, sign me up. So I can't tell you how many times I harassed people and said, am I still in the running, still in the running? So 14 years later, I'm still here. So I started my career as a personal trainer all here at the First Coast, worked my way up as a wellness director, associate executive director, metro level staff for a couple of years to take on association projects, and then kind of came back into branch operations. So now I'm currently the executive director of the Winston YMCA, which is our flagship down here in Jacksonville.
So you're still in the running.
yeah, exactly. Still in the running.
And just to clarify, and you oversee the fitness centers for most of the Ys now.
I do. As most people know that work with Y professionals, they wear many hats. So my day-to-day job is to run the downtown Y in Jacksonville as the branch exec, but also working with you guys, the great partners at Life Fitness, and yes, handling most of the quoting, the installs, and things like that in terms of our branch equipment refreshes, or when we open up new branches, outfitting it with new equipment.
Awesome. And the second follow-up to that is what makes the YMCA different from a typical fitness facility that someone would say?
Yeah, I'm happy you asked that because now more than ever, we're seeing that. I'm handling tons of phone calls with the closures that we've had. The Y is so much more than just a gym. It's a community. So someone might walk in for a health and wellness related benefit, and that's great. But at the end of the day, they meet people in the swimming pool or in group fitness classes or up on the wellness floor. So really that benefit they came in, that's great. It's a big bonus to be well in whatever capacity wellness is to you. But it's the deepened relationships that people have at the Y, because we have 4 guiding principles. It's for all of our members, guests, and program participants, it's to welcome them, connect with them, support them. So really the Y is about community and the family atmosphere, not just a place to shoot hoops, swim laps, or lift weights.
Man,
that's awesome. That's awesome.
No, that's awesome to hear and have that context as we think through, the purpose of this interview is to really help folks out there that are listening understand, what the impact to our current situation, the pandemic, quarantines, and all of those things that have impacted all of us in some way. There's nobody on planet Earth that's not affected in some way, shape, or form.
Right.
For us in the fitness industry, it's had very specific impact, and also for you guys serving the communities and the fitness side of things, I think it's kind of a double whammy. So as we hop into the specific questions here, just real, kind of briefly, what's the impact been, the coronavirus quarantines, how's that affected you and in your YMCA association, your members? What's the big picture?
Yeah, honestly, it's been significant. We've had to kind of rethink and revision how we operate. We closed down in Jacksonville March 16th. So we've been shut down since then. So a little over a month. we had to make tough decisions and we've had to furlough a lot of our staff, but silver lining is a furlough is not forever. So the majority of our staff are going to be able to come back whenever we're able to ramp up based on how this transitions as we're able to reopen. But we've done a lot with virtual programming. We had our virtual studio up within a week. So we have our group fitness instructors, our personal trainers doing content through our YouTube channel. We do Facebook Live classes. You guys as industry partners have been great in terms of sharing your content for our members to have access to. So whether they're in their garage or their backyard or their living room, they can still work out from the comfort of their own home safely. So that's been one thing, but also too, like the staff still working, we are delivering childcare for medical professionals, first responders, and essential workers. So like 6 of our YMCAs are still hosting camp right now. So that way, moms and dads that have to work during the pandemic still have a safe place to drop off their kids. And then we're doing a lot with academic enrichment as well. So we do a lot with our Team Up program in Jax. So with that said, we partner with Duval County Public Schools, Kids Hope Alliance, and we provide arts and crafts, health and wellness activities, STEM activities, things like that. And then I don't want to forget the 50 and better segment that we have down here. Isolation and loneliness is such a huge issue for those folks. So we're still making, courtesy check-in calls with them. We're doing online content with our Silver Sneakers partners, with our Y instructors that teach Silver Sneakers classes. So we're doing storytelling with some of our members through Zoom meetings. So we're just trying to be super creative to engage as much as possible during this time until we can reopen the doors.
Oh, that's really good. And you answered sort of the second question about, the things you were already doing to stay connected, as best as we all are trying to with your members. And you've seen response from that? Your members have engaged. You've seen people take advantage of those services?
Yes, we have. Obviously, the ramp up through our social media. We've had a really good social media presence with the First Coast Y. Our branches have our own individual Facebook pages, so we're liking and sharing content and posting things daily. The virtual classes have been huge. So that way, people that aren't even a YMCA member can technically get onto our website and participate. So really, I want to say it the right way. It's great in terms of the business sense because the people that may not know a lot about the Y that get it from somebody else, they're like, oh, I'll go check it out and check out these classes. So it's an entry point for them to think about the Y whenever we reopen our doors.
Yeah, no, that's a really encouraging thing to be thinking about, some of the silver linings and sort of that long term. Right now, it's so easy to just be focused on like today.
Yeah,
we can't do what we want to do and get back to working out in our favorite facilities like the Y and everything. So that leads me literally to my next question, though. So how do you think? I know we don't have a perfect crystal ball, but we see the members of hope with like Utah and Georgia starting to prepare to open up and allow people back. What do you think it's going to look like for you, the big picture in the economy? What do you think the industry is going to look like for you there to open your doors again? How's it going to look different?
It's going to be different. It's going to be a new normal, and we're going to create that. So right now, just kind of internally at the First Coast, we have a whole leadership team dedicated to the operations, looking at literally the next 2, 3, 5 months. And then we have the strategic planning side of things to help vision us for the next 2 years of our 3-year strategic plan. But kind of with that said, we know that once we open the doors, there's going to be those percentage of individuals that like, I just want to get back in. There's going to be that next segment that's going to be like, I really love the Y and want to be there, but I'm not ready to go back in just yet because of what's going on. And then we have other people like our seniors that are they're not going to come back until there's either a vaccine or something that's treating COVID-19. So realistically, to try to pinpoint on your question, we're going to bring back our programs, but we're not going to bring them all back at once. So there's going to be amenities and things along those lines that we might have to sacrifice in terms of safety. So at my Y, we have towel service. So we're still contemplating if we're going to have towels or not. My vote as an executive director is to not, because so many hands touch the towels they get from the distributor to us. And that's just one example. Saunas, steam rooms, things like that. But when it comes to programs, we're going to ramp back up in terms of our swim lessons and our sports programs, but that's probably going to be 2 to 3 months down the road. It's really just getting people back in the building. And a lot of things we're thinking about are the social distancing guidelines that are going to come out in terms of being 6 feet apart and things like that. So we've been kind of mapping out the studio spaces by square footage, our gymnasiums, our kid zones, to figure out how many people we can safely serve. So we've been doing a lot of that behind the scenes in preparation. And then also too, we're thinking a lot about cleanliness and sanitation. At the Y, people care about three things: cleanliness, friendliness, and working equipment. So cleanliness now more than ever is going to be, I think, what's going to get people back into the Y or any other health and fitness club across the country. If you can prove to them that you're clean, that you're safe, that we have ourselves together to prepare for this new normal, I think it's going to pay dividends in the long run.
That's good stuff and very insightful. So to kind of recap, there might even be potential to limit how many people are allowed in actual sections of the fitness floor to allow that ratio that you guys are putting in place. Is that kind of how you're thinking about it? Yeah.
So, I mean, as you guys know, working with YMCAs, we have equipment on top of equipment in some places. So we're looking at, very tasteful, like Y logoed covers to put over cardio consoles and things like that. So that way we're just not cautioning tape saying you can't use this piece of equipment. So we're strategically thinking about that, as mentioned with the studios and the gymnasium. If we can't have pickup basketball or badminton or pickleball, we can utilize that space for other programs and have a much larger space inside of our Y to do things, since we can't have the gymnasium in full capacity, like right when we reopen. So.
Awesome. No, I think that's helpful. I think that as people are really starting to get to that point where they need to think practically about what it's actually going to look like in their facilities, how are they going to have to put like these sort of safeguards in place so that people do feel comfortable go back. I think you're right. I think some people will come back the second the doors are open.
Oh yeah.
For those people, you got to make sure you pump the brakes and say, hey, we have to do this smart because we can't risk, putting everybody else back at risk.
Yeah, and even things like you see when you're out and about, like I try to, do as much market research as possible when I'm out in my community. So I'm at my public supermarket looking at how they have the aisles marked in terms of traffic flow. I'm looking at the marks they have on the floor where people should stand. We're looking into sneeze guards at our front desks to make sure that, our transactions are safe between member and our staff. And even too, like we're not super far down the road yet, but we're starting to look into like the electrostatic sprayings and things like that. So there's so much out there, but like you said, it's unknown. So we're trying to do as best as we can to prepare to make sure that once we open our doors, we know exactly our course of action.
No, that's really good and really neat to hear that you guys are thinking about it that way. So the follow-up question to that is a little bit more big picture. What does it look like, for the fitness industry as a whole, to operate post-quarantine, right? So like, is it the same for a small group training boutiques as it is for a Planet Fitness low cost, high volume, and the same for a Y, or do they all have to approach it differently to get back to business as usual like it used to be ever? What do you think?
I think we're going to have to work smarter, not harder, and think very creatively outside the box. In terms of like the boutique centers, I'm in a Y, which is more like the community center feel, but they're going to have to adapt. The Planet Fitness, for those folks that just want to go in and work out and lift weights, which there's nothing wrong with that, in terms of getting their cardio and strength in, like it'll be different for them because their direct services are much different than the Y. We have a lot to think about because we serve three pillars: our healthy living with all of those programs, our youth development programs with all of our kids, and then our social responsibility with our community outreach. So we have so many different things that we have to think about in terms of how we're going to operate moving forward. We think there's going to be a niche in the virtual market. To be honest, like I think that the people that are apprehensive about coming back to the Y, this could be a great way to continue to capture their interest by having a virtual online programmatic membership for a handful of months until they say, okay, I think it's safe where I can come back to the Y. So I think that's going to work. I think the power of social media has been huge. So that's going to continue to help us with our technology. But at the end of the day, it's just, like I said, it comes back to the cleanliness factor. I'm doubling down on that. Like if we can prove to people that we have the cleanest facilities and the safest facilities, they're going to trust us and they're going to come back in.
No, I think that's accurate and really intriguing there. If you happen to listen to the first interview I did with the guy that owns a small group training boutique, he also, though, said the same thing around the need for having a virtual presence, for communicating and connecting with your members that way, and the opportunity to leverage social media to stay connected, even post-quarantine. You know, this all sort of came like overnight in many ways, and there were folks that were already doing on-demand workouts and virtual workouts, but it was sort of like a side hustle to your side hustle maybe, or something like that. But now it's integral to everybody's business model. And the point that he made and that you're making there is that probably continues on in a way that we continue to explore more avenues to stay connected to our members.
No, you're right. And like, without getting too far down the virtual hole, I really think that we need to adapt and create our own niche within that space, because there's so many virtual platforms out there right now that we could lose a small percentage of our market post-COVID, because they're like, I'm going to go do my Peloton or my Les Mills on demand or whatever it may be. But by having the touch point of our group fitness instructors, our personal trainers delivering classes virtually, they have that connection. When I go back to being a family and being a community, they know the person that's in front of them, even though it's through a computer screen or a mobile device. So I think that's going to be big for us. I think it's going to take a lot for us to redesign and rethink how we do organized youth and adult sports. There's no definitive timeline, but as of right now, we're thinking sports probably aren't coming back until the fall. I hope I'm wrong, but we want to err on the side of caution. Swim lessons and swim teams, we're probably looking at, August, September. Because, I mean, with social distancing guidelines, how can I feel safe putting an instructor in a pool with a young child 6 feet away? It doesn't work. So we're having to rethink our business model. So we're actually, for the first time in forever, at the Y, we always talk about what program can we do to serve more people in the community. Now we're having to be very strategic in terms of, okay, what can we do right now? What may not have been working that we might have to scrap? And then what are some things that kind of have to sit on like the warmer until we're able to ramp those back up as we get into the fall? Because we never know, but who knows, during flu season in the fall, this could come back, and we hope it doesn't.
Right.
But we have to prepare in advance. So we're really taking a ramped up and a phased approach in terms of our staffing models, in terms of how we bring our staff back. Same thing with our programs.
No, that's spot on. I think most experts are in agreement that like the old model of the fitness world and that's gone, right? And I think for the foreseeable short to midterm future, we can expect being impacted some kind of way with how we approach all of the next steps to opening the doors and running programs and engaging with our members, all of those impacts that we're experiencing. Yeah, that carries well on into 2021, as we've heard about potential relapse and things like that.
Yeah, it's going to look different everywhere. And just like for stats, Jeff knows this because he's worked with me for years, but like pre-COVID, my YMCA branch, we were getting 36 to 40,000 people visiting the Y a month. And in 2019, we had over 500,000 people come to my Y. So that's going to look completely different. So really, like, when I bring my team back and we open up the doors, as we have our behind the scenes, probably 3 to 7 day ramp up time before we open the doors to the community, my message to them is, this is a new day. It's a new time. It's going to be like opening up a brand new YMCA all over again, because everyone's going to have to be on the same page in terms of processes and procedures to make sure, because the last thing, I was on a webinar the other day, the last thing you want to say to someone when you open back up is no. Now there's tough things that you're going to have to cut out, like maybe no steam room for 2 months or no towel service or some things like that. But as long as you have the messaging down and everyone speaks the same language, it's going to be fine when you explain to them, instead of just saying, no, we're not going to have towels anymore. So we have to be very empathetic to those folks that have been missing the Y, because fitness helps our mental health and well-being. So a lot of these folks are itching to get back. Some want to come back quicker than others, but nonetheless, we're going to have to rethink and redesign some things. But the Y has been around for over 170 years. It's been around over 112 years in Jacksonville, and we don't plan on going anywhere. So it's just going to look different. That's all.
No, that's outstanding. As we kind of look to wrap up here, I mean, we're from the Life Fitness side. That's why we love partnering with you guys and YMCA's across the country for the mission and the things that you guys are doing. And really helpful insight here today. So appreciate all the transparency and just sharing some of your information. We'll post this on LinkedIn and tag and everything. But if folks wanted to reach out with you for any questions, all right. If you have an email address that they could shoot you a quick email just for some things that they're working on in their Ys or facilities, would that be okay?
Absolutely, yeah.
Sure. What's the email address?
So I'll give my email address. It's tburrows@fcymca.org.
Okay.
And if people are interested with anything we're doing, our website is the one-stop shop. So it's fcymca.org.
Yeah.
My branch is the Winston branch. So if they search me by location, I'll be the point of contact so they can find my email that way. But I'm happy to connect with anybody out there because as you mentioned at the beginning, we're all learning together.
Yeah.
So, why keep it to ourselves or hide things? We all just need to share to figure out how we're going to get through this pandemic as a team, regardless if you're for-profit, not-for-profit, small boutique owner, or a YMCA.
No, I agree completely. That was sort of the impetus behind me starting to do these interviews, just to kind of get some information out there, folks. So yeah, on behalf of Jeff and I both, thanks a million for spending the time, sharing some information. And like I said, we'll have this posted here soon and hopefully everybody will find it super valuable. Thanks again, Tim.
Yeah.
Sounds good,
Thanks,
guys.
Tim.
Thank you so much for having me.
Have a good one, Tim. We're in this
All right.
together.
That's
All right, you guys take care. Good to see you all.
Bye.